Now, this one I was actually quite interested in because I hadn't read it yet, but I've been seeing this pop up. This is all over the right wing media outlets. Let's go to the Western. Oh, don't tell me I got to subscribe. I'm not going to subscribe. Nope. Nope. Get out of here. Go on, get. All right. So, I again, a lot of these stories I haven't read until I get into these. Some of these I've read ahead of time. Some of them I'm kind of doing this thought process as I'm actually reading them, and it kind of it's interesting when you I find it more interesting to kind of do this in real time as I'm trying to kind of figure out for myself, hey, what am I reading into this? How is this affecting me? And I thought that would be a better way than coming in all polished and approached, a polished approach to basically regurgitating the news. That's what the corporate media does. It's not fun, right? So we're already seeing a lot of editorializing in this. Trying to get so basically they found this little boy, a 2-year-old boy, unaccompanied at the border, just left out there. And this isn't the first time we've seen this. We've actually seen this quite a bit. And this is probably the kind of the tragic, heartbreaking thing of the border itself, in which, you have this political football that neither side actually wants to solve, right? Um, it gives them both their political talking points when realistically both sides want a porous border, um, and they don't actually want to try to solve the problem. And unfortunately, a lot of these things slip through the cracks, and innocent people are getting hurt. You're having human trafficking coming over the border. You have these kids that are just left in the desert. If you recall that, like, how often do they find semis that are just parked on a desert street, just full of a dozen or 2 dozen dead immigrants because of the way they're smuggled across, and they're just abandoned. Ship ID with a Louisiana address on it. Interesting take. So they gave him a fake ID that basically says, "Hey, I live in Louisiana." Oh, how do you do, fellow Americans? All right. Let's see. This is the other thing I want to see. So they found something else in his backpack. I thought I saw he was encountered with a group of Chinese nationals who had crossed illegally into Texas. Interesting. Interesting. So yeah, this has kind of been something that the right has obviously been a little bit more focused on. In fact, the blind spot report on this is there's 0% left reporting on this. Same as 0% reporting on the TikTok issue, though this I think is a little bit more important than TikTok. See, I'm not a huge fan of this either. When did this happen in news? Like, oh, Twitter is the news. We're just going to clip Twitter hot takes and basically put them into our news story and call that news. Like, oh, yay, look, that one's got 223 likes. Who cares? Now, again, the current administration has directly caused this mess. Directly caused, no. Are they not doing the best job at trying to kind of curtail some of this stuff? Yeah, and we see that in the immigration numbers, in the encounter that the CBP have, and we've seen it skyrocket during this administration. And uh, but this is an issue that we have not been able to figure out for decades. Now, maybe we could solve it if we just like personally with the centrist take, and I think this is the issue with this country is I think that there is a place for the left and right, but if we actually just kind of took pieces of both sides, do you know how many of these problems we could just fix? And it wouldn't even be a compromise; it would just be fixed, right? Like, do you really think that we'd have the issue of illegal immigration as bad as it is now if we made it just a little bit easier to become a citizen, right? And I understand as these problems scale up, excuse me, um, as these problems scale up, I understand it'll be harder and harder and harder. But looking at some of the barriers to entry, I have friends that have gone through the naturalization process and have gotten their um, got earned their citizenship. And hold on. So, uh, and by the end of it, they knew more civics than freaking ask anybody. Like, I understand. Like, you go down the street, I can guarantee 9 out of 10 questions that are probably 9 out of every 10 questions that are on these entrance exams or these citizenship exams, nobody knows, right? No normal American knows. So it kind of seems a little bit arbitrary that we would make such a staunch requirement to allow somebody to become a US citizen. And I understand you want people to feel like they are a part of this country so that we're not basically being overrun from within. I understand that. And as we see these immigration numbers peak and increase, we're to a point where there's over 10 million, I think 11 million, something like that in the country. That's a sizable chunk of the population that now we just can't keep track of. Well, maybe if we kind of made the naturalization process a little bit easier, the citizenship process a little bit easier, you wouldn't have these people that just overstay their visa and disappear, right? Just make it easier. But this goes to back to community, right? In which we need to make them feel like they belong, and they also need to make the receiving country also feel as though they are part of the community, and the community being the United States of America. Because the last thing we want to do is invite a bunch of people that'll come in and turn things around away from the American way. Right? But yeah, this is what's funny, just a little rabbit hole, and I like to do this. I do recall reading a few years ago that they got like 13 of the smartest people together in a room, both from the left and right, to try to figure out how to solve the immigration issue at the southern border. And even they came out of this meeting and said, we don't know. And it's like, so this is an issue that continues to be to I don't want to use the term plague. It is an issue with the country that we need to find a solution for. And in this case, you have, because it's the bully pulpit of the right now, the right is just jawing off with about the open southern border. But you also see, what was it, Ezra Klein interview with Bernie Sanders back in 2015, where Bernie Sanders said, oh, the desire for open border control or open borders is a right-wing Koch brothers conspiracy theory because they want that border open, and we Democrats want it. Or he's caucusing with the Democrats, so I'll say we Democrats. And the Democrats back then, the party of the working class, they wanted to shut the border. They wanted that border closed. And if you actually looked at the immigration policy of the Obama administration, it was very, very staunchly anti-immigrant. So it's kind of funny how they're able to flip this little political football back and forth without anybody actually solving the problem, right? So tomorrow, if the Democrats started being pro-border, you'd see Republicans go anti-border. We saw this with Trump, right? So that was the flippening, because this false dichotomy we find ourselves in as a country. Oh, you better not have any agreement with the other side, which is why I think that this ideological divide is getting so dangerous, because at a flip of a switch, a man can come down the elevator or the golden escalator, and because he is so divisive, him simply having this position, now the opposite party has to flip and do something radically different. And that's when we saw the flippening between the Republicans suddenly becoming pro border control and the Democrats becoming so anti border control. So let's keep moving on. I kind of dwelled on that story a little bit longer than I intended to, simply because this is something that we've had issues with for quite some time. It's are we going to solve it tomorrow? No, but it doesn't help when we have one side of the country that just doesn't want to look into this.